Good evening, Elgin.
Why, good evening, sir. Welcome again. Welcome again.
9 midnight on Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. Hope that you enjoy it. Talking about horror films today. Ooh, wow. Popping up. Oh, that's always automated. So we're gonna be, yeah, the horror movies. That's all I was thinking about. Oops. I'm a big Clive Barker fan. I mentioned that a few times. I like H.P. Lovecraft, so there's been a lot of movies. A lot of these alien encounters, haunting, whether or not they're real or not, there's a whole entertainment side that profits off the idea of ghosts, of aliens, and not in like the fun ET way, not in the glowy finger heal you way. It's the popping out of your chest.
Right?
I mean, even Alien itself kind of evolved into more like action, sci-fi action, but really that first movie was a horror movie that didn't happen in a cabin by a lake or a camp. It didn't happen in the city. It happened in the space station in the future, right? Like these people, it's their job. They're like miners. They got a distress call. It's our job to answer it, or we're not going to make, or we get court-martialed for not answering a distress call. It's our fault for waking up. We shouldn't have been woken up right now. Damn it, right? But then it was the ultimate in fear.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Really? Well then.
Yeah, yeah. I think too, like having that the way that they write things. There you go. Having the way that they write things was it made you kind of use your own fears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they would play on people's fears, and I enjoyed that very much so in a lot of their movies, in like classics, Hellraisers, all that sort of stuff. There you go.
So just in case we weren't being picked up in the beginning as well, yeah, we were talking about movies, horror movies, and we just got onto Hellraiser, I believe.
I don't know about only horror movies because there are some other movies that scared me, which not
And you
necessarily
know what?
horror.
That's
You
a
know what I
really
mean?
good point. It's not only movies that
I'd say just fearful movies, movies that made
yeah,
me afraid.
movies that made me afraid. And while horror movies are maybe what might attract someone to check this one out, the Never Ending Story when I was a kid, Morla in the
That's one of
swamp.
them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Honestly,
That's one of them.
right? Like
Yeah,
that turtle head. We are allergic to you. Oh man, I got
it
chills
was
right
not
now.
pleasant like it was supposed to be.
As a
You know what I
child, it
mean?
was unpleasant.
It was
As a
very
child, it was
unsettling at
bad.
the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so many other things. Even E.T., a heartwarming story. But the first time you see him in the brush, and you just Elliot's out there.
Well, that one didn't get me. That's interesting. Go on.
Like the very first time you see E.T. and it's just like
Didn't work for me. Yeah.
looking through the grass, and all of a sudden it's like the flashlight, and he goes ah, and that was it. Boom.
The sound of his scream was not frightening to me. Really,
It was
that's
the whole
funny.
thing. It was the first appearance. It was a shock for the kid. I was a kid when I saw it. You know what I mean?
Of course,
But
yeah. Don't
and
lie, you're a little afraid now. Still kind
ooh.
of get you heebie-jeebies.
Can you bring me a sweater?
Where's my comfort weighted blanket?
It's 25 pounds, and I don't feel like it's heavy enough. Anyway,
Right. I need it to pin me down. That's all I'm asking.
What is it about being swaddled? It works as a child. It works as an adult.
I don't know about that. Have you ever actually used one of those things? Funny enough, I know it's off subject, but have you actually used one of those things?
For like on and off a couple weeks, it was awesome. There were some times when it was great, but overall, it's hard to figure out where to put it. It's a great gift. I like
I
it.
just, yeah, I feel like I'm like going to be wearing this giant, like a mat, like a giant weighted mat. I can't see that being comforting
It's only
any
in
way.
the winter time, possibly. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about horror movies, but a little quick aside, talking about weighted blankets. As far as comforting. So if it's really cold, I can use the weighted blanket. If it's not cold, like I sometimes sleep with a sheet or,
Oh man, I love to be roasty, toasty warm, dude. Like super warm. I love to be on that brink of sweaty.
So I thought I knew I wasn't a superhero, but I thought I had some weird evolution or mutation or something where I was just 3 degrees hotter than a normal person, because I mean, anytime I would go to the school nurse, if anyone puts a thermometer in my mouth, the policy says they have to call my mother, no matter what.
Like, nope, he's
because
too hot.
101 is not safe. He has to go home, and I don't know why, but it's like, they'd watch me. I don't know how. I was always running hot.
That's funny. I actually do too. Like even during this whole like COVID thing, like I sit at 99, 98. I'm like 99 all the time.
Yeah.
And when I'm 98, I'm freezing. And I know when I'm down to 98 because I feel like I'm freezing. It's the funniest thing.
Weird thing, I don't do well in cold weather.
Oh, me either. I am absolute tropical person.
I'm a tropical. Yeah, the hotter it is outside, the better it is for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And my wife loves the winter wonderland. It's like, it's so tough. It would be that way.
No. Opposites attract, right?
Always, right? She talks about Norway. I talk about Belize.
Right, exactly.
But,
that's funny.
Again, I guess I'm afraid of the snow, I mean,
I was just going to say, like, think all the horror movies that are in snow times, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. There were good zombie ones. There was that Nazis melting that was just burned into my retina from the beginning of Netflix. Like, Nazis of the snow or snow Nazis.
Yeah, that one's ridiculous. There was like 28 days, or not 28 days. What's the vampire one?
Oh, 30 Days of Night.
30 Days of Night. Yeah,
so
yeah.
The 30 Days of Night was really good because it was good. I
love that one. That was really fun to actually watch.
I'm trying to pick it apart really quick in my head. I hadn't thought about it in a little while, but
there's a couple holes in it, but I like watching it. It's great for entertainment wise, but there's a lot of holes in that movie.
I like all the actors who were in it. It was what's his name? It's that great Australian actor.
Let me pull it up.
I believe. I think he was from Fringe. He was the dad on Fringe. He played Walter. I believe he's in that. But as of right now, I could be wrong. Oh man. Yeah, let me know if you find out who's in that. Because now I'm just thinking about
Josh
Fringe.
Hartnett's in it.
Josh Hartnett is in that one. Who played the lead vampire? I can't remember. I thought he was the same person who played Denethor, Lord Denethor.
Denny Houston.
Nope. Danny
Houston. Ben Foster. Yeah, Danny Houston. He was Marlowe in it.
Marlowe. Wait, he was the lead vampire.
The lead vampire. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll pull up the IMDb.
And if I'm getting weird pictures in my head, anyway, with that one, the snow was an interesting element. It made me wonder, did they melt? The backstory may be given away in the graphic novel or prequel, sequel, other analogous.
I feel like it made it a little bit more scary too, because it's like, you think, oh, you can just see footprints in the snow kind of thing, and not so much when the vampires can jump. And jump and fly and everything like that. That was cool.
Not so much when it's snowing so much that even if we're looking for snow prints that was filled in by the powder 5 seconds ago.
Very true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? The wind.
You're already stuck. Yeah.
Again, I just mentioned me personally. I'm not good in the snow, right? So like if I had to fight vampires.
Oh, Mark Boone Jr. I love that dude. Sorry.
Oh, I know that name. I know that
he's like a biker in a lot of movies. Let me see what else he's in. Sorry, sidetracked. Joel Tobeck, is that the guy you're thinking?
No, I'm trying to.
It doesn't
remember.
actually
I'm going to take
say.
a look it up for it right now. I'm just going to look up Fringe. So the television series was starring John Noble. Is John Noble in there? I don't believe so. Not anymore. John Noble. For some reason, in my mind, I believe that it was him.
No, I don't
in
see
the
him on
makeup.
here.
No problem. So with vampires, though, there have been a lot of other vampires have almost been co-opted away from the horror genre into
It's like the mainstream, honestly.
adolescent
Complete mainstream.
sexuality in a way, right? Like there's almost
Well,
like an emergence.
There's only one series. Let's not say all that. It's only one series that kind of try to ruin that.
No, honestly, and I'm not going to say. All right, there's one that like kind of didn't do great, but with it, I'll put it at very kindly. I'll put it that way. But even before
Appreciate
that,
was nice.
It was nice, right?
Subtle cut down.
but even the Anne Rice novels,
it was recycled trash.
but even the man, really, I mean, but even the Anne Rice novels, which were, as far as like taking the idea of these immortal creatures, and then she thought about what really would, that kind of life be like, and people, she she kind of started a lot of people, kind of it was
thinking about that there could be a different style.
It was. I mean? It was always, well, I think that, the way they were kind of apathetic or despondent with immortality because it was so boring. It was so boring, but they were also living through hundreds of years of not that much changing. People just warring with each other for whatever reason. And before the modern age, really, maybe it was because, I do like that movie. Even, that's not a horror movie, but again, that's vampires being co-opted away. And that's kind of the beginning, though, because we started thinking about what would a long life be like. The importance of our life is really determined by the fact that we know it's coming to an end, right? Like,
that there's an end coming, right? Exactly.
Whether or not it's a horror movie or not, any writer who seems to write about an immortal species, the idea of living forever, though a lot of people seem to want it, it seems the people who have put a lot of thought into what actually goes along with it, even though they put like a weird spin to it, it's a curse to live forever. But even when it's not a curse, J.R. Tolkien, when well, for a vampire, it's a curse, right?
Right. So, more. Yeah, I was gonna say for vampire, I would say more
for cursey. Vampires, and in most forms of immortality, even being a ghost seems a curse. If you had to just scream down the hallway every fucking night, pardon my French, if you had to scream down the hallway, just the same hallway every night, because that was the worst moment. That's what I mean. I don't know. If that's like, if you had to live in one house and like, it was like, it's all you wanted to do. If you were somehow compelled to torture any living being who wanted to live in the house you used to live in, I mean, that's not, that's not a gift.
I guess, yeah. I was going to say, I wonder if it's like a contract kind of a thing, like, hey, do you know that if you do this you're going to get to this level or get released, or is it just the way that it is? You know what I mean? Like that's one thing that I mean, funny enough, the film you're talking about, right? I assume Interview with a Vampire.
That's the one I was talking about. Yes,
we will never be able to interview a ghost for the same idea. You know what I mean? Like, okay, why are you doing this? Like, is there a reason behind doing this thing? You know what I mean?
Remember, kids, also, Casper won't be friendly. Sorry, go on.
Exactly. I was thinking too. Like, I looked up Anne Rice right when you said that, and she some sort of way wrote for Queen of the Damned too.
That's part of her vampire series.
Yeah, I was like, man, I like that one too.
That's another great one. Actually, the character, the male character who plays Lestat in it was Stuart Townsend in Queen of the Damned with Leah, and Tom Cruise played that same character. So Queen of the Damned, he's playing.
Oh, that's supposed to be the same character. I didn't know that.
So obviously it was like what 7, 8 years later, and Tom Cruise didn't, he didn't age during that time at all. And even now, he still doesn't look that much older than he ever really did. But you know, it's like
Scientology. There you go.
It must be. You know, I mean, those secrets, man. You know,
They have secrets.
They have
That's
secrets.
all I'm saying.
You know, that's scary. Think about, you know, Skull and Bones Society. Think of any kind of secret society. You know, even Stanley Kubrick, the last film he made, again, Tom Cruise, Eyes Wide Shut. It again. Was, I know, right? I mean,
weird.
Well, the other thing too is there's something about horror films where they don't win awards often. Right, but well, maybe in more recent days they will.
Something true.
Maybe something more recent.
Back in the old days. Yeah,
but in older days, horror films, you know, were still like they weren't going to win awards, no matter how much they were passion projects. They were really well done. They were the first acting appearance for so many big names. Matthew McConaughey. You got
to think of like
Jennifer Aniston.
You got to think of like how the Academy works too. Like, they have to please the masses, and the masses aren't wanting to be scared. So you know, like there are a gigantic amount. Yeah, there's more nowadays, but you got to think back in like we're not talking forever ago. We're talking like the 70s, 80s, really.
I mean, even in the 90s.
I mean, even the 90s. Yeah, even the 90s. Yeah,
90s, really. You know, it was kind of something.
It wasn't fun to be really scared.
There was something about I think it's because Y2K didn't happen, you know, planes didn't fall.
People started not being so afraid.
So like the fear mongering stopped, and that's when just a little bit later, then you know, it's like there's always something. So man, people were really scared of that. And as soon as, but even into like the beginning of Twitter, where people are like just now getting, you know, getting flack for the stuff they said in 2008, 2009, because back then people were edgelords, and that was, and we didn't even use that term.
The whole cancel culture thing came around.
Yeah, we didn't even use that term because that's how everyone was or whatever. But it's like, you know, now it's like all of that shit. I mean, we got a little off subject with all that. It's that evolution of the mindset, the way people, you know, will joke about one thing, and then 2 years later, it's like, don't you say that out loud. It's also the way people watch movies. They're winning awards now.
Oh, absolutely.
Horror films,
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, you went from action movies to, well, in the beginning, I mean, love stories were the only way to go to win. You had to have a great love story.
Gone with the Wind
was it. The only way. Gone with the Wind, you know what I mean? Yeah. Casablanca, all those sort of things. Like, if you didn't have love in it, forget it. You weren't winning anything.
No.
If less your movie was being produced, you know what I mean? Let alone. So, you know, I mean, you think about the horror movies back in Casablanca times, like there's very few and far between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all love and adventure and like,
or German.
You know, exactly, or German, or like, you know,
that's
propaganda, not propaganda, but you know, whatever.
You know, that's actually that's actually a good thing to bring up too. You know, during times of anything, you know,
propaganda either direction, I guess.
Exactly, in either direction. I mean, you know, no matter what. I mean, you know, just again, the way society's mindset changes, and people want to blame the media or anything, you know, can we be coerced to thinking that something is okay or something is wrong or blah, 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 you know, by the media, by just horror movies changing, you know, we're not just scared of never seeing the killer. Now we want to see how many tentacles, and are they drippy? How drippy? What color mucus is that? You know, we're getting nasty with it.
Well, like, I think that came with like technology and how we could actually advance the way movies are like shot and portrayed, you know what I mean?
And that takes away some of the fear for me.
Exactly. It takes away some of the fear. No, you're exactly right. I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah.
I talk about a classic movie that me and you absolutely love. I know. Sorry, no joking on myself. It's a movie, you know, set in snow again, funny enough. And
Scary for me. Probably. I can't think of it. What is it?
You can't think of it? Oh,
I can't
man.
think of it. Wait.
So there's
all right.
there's
You
an
and me
older version.
like
Yeah, there's an older version and a
the
newer version.
The Thing, of course.
Exactly,
Yes. Okay.
exactly.
So I mean, yes, it's got
the older
so
one
many elements.
frightened the crap out of me. It was like, whoa, because again,
we
they
might
had
need to change the
animatronics.
title to Snow and Fear.
Right. Exactly. The White Death.
Yeah, it's scary as hell.
That's the thing, like that type of like filming is different. I mean, they had used animatronics. They had I watched this documentary on it actually, where they had the animatronics guy and he built the monster in secrecy.
Yeah.
Where nobody, not even the director or anybody, could see it. They talked about what they wanted and how they wanted it to look, and gave him carte blanche and was like, "Go crazy, however, whatever you got to do."
And afterward, they recut. I saw that. Yeah.
And then this guy came back with this giant, like 5,000-pound robot, like
I've seen
monster.
Some,
it was so cool to read, like to see that.
It
like
was
the actor's reaction was legit a reaction, not acting.
Yeah.
Like they pop up. There's even parts you can see where they edited because it was such real fear. Like he didn't say his line. So they cut away and edit and show the monster and have him scream out his line in post. It's just awesome because he was so afraid. He was like, never seen that before. It was such a cool idea. You know what I mean? Whereas the new one's all CGI and people are, reacting to a guy holding up sticks with, green suit with a point on it. And he's got to react to the little white balls. Yeah. A little less scary.
That's a smart play on the pardon me, on the director's part. And, Steven Spielberg, when he did, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there's that scene where the little boy, he goes into the living room. And again, I like the behind the scenes for some of these too. And usually it's behind the scenes of horror films, honestly. I mean, it really, Wes Craven, that's a whole other, I mean, that could be a whole episode
David
under
Cronenberg,
itself. Oh man. I mean, one of my all-time favorites, Brian Yuzna, hands down, love Brian Yuzna. But what was I just saying again? Oh, I went a little off topic.
You're talking about Steven Spielberg letting the artistic creator or artistic director guy.
The way the child, when he turned the corner and he looked into the kitchen, and he's got that the little boy was like 2 or 3 years old, right? And he turned around and he had a genuine shock, right? And you never see. That's that Hitchcock, right? Hitchcock really started, you don't see what's the monster. You see a shadow of a knife and a wig. It's got to be Mother.
The silhouette.
It's Mother.
Exactly.
But right.
The silhouette, the idea of it.
Yeah. And Spielberg did that in Close Encounters. The boy comes in shocked. Now the behind the scenes, I guess, when the boy came around, there was someone on set wearing like a, evil wolf mask. So the boy was, and then as soon as that happened, the guy took the mask off and it was like, oh, hey, it's the caretaker.
Oh,
it's the caretaker. So, they can cut the sound and everything. So then it's just like, oh, sorry, didn't know you were going to be here. And he goes, right? And it was like,
got me.
and Steven Spielberg just planned that out. And it's like, we're going to toy with the kids' emotions, but it's something they did again. Like I brought that up because you said that they did it for the actors on it. It's Kurt Russell. Imagine walking in and that being afraid because you haven't got to see the monster yet. You're
actually reacting instead of acting. You know what I mean? And that was a cool
truth of the moment, right? Coming out. It's like. I've been to some of those haunted houses, and that's coming up soon. It's still going to be October.
Yeah.
Week, right?
Remember did you work at those too when I did?
No. You worked at those?
Yeah. So
for security?
Yeah, for security.
Okay. Yeah.
I did the Freakling Brothers and
wow.
I forget the other one, but I still actually do security for them.
Really?
I did 2 years ago. Yeah. I did their security for their haunted houses out here in Vegas.
That's really cool.
They make haunted houses. Shout out to them, by the way.
Yeah.
TJ and his brother. But yeah, awesome haunted houses, and their actors are all volunteers
Oh, cool.
every year, and then then after you volunteer the first year and you come back, you get paid, and it's great because those people put their heart into scaring people, and it's awesome to see how much like actual passion and like some of these people make their own suits and like special effects. It's very cool to watch how they like. It's funny to watch them come into work, and you're like, you drove into work like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, the community that gets into, I mean, just cosplay, and then the different subsects of that, whether you go to this cosplay event or not, you know, I mean, I knew a guy who would build a 3D, it was like cardboard, and then he would lacquer or an enamel it, and every single year he would make another Master Chief. It was like whatever the latest. He was a big Halo fan,
wow.
and it would be the most latest. And I mean, and it would be accurate to the polygons of whatever was programmed to Master Chief for that latest update or whatever. And he had to fold the paper in all these little ways.
Wild, wild.
And it was insane. Then after lacquering it, then he was walking around, and I was like, you look insane good. And then, and then like, you know, as he moves, like, he was look on the inside. I was like, holy hell, it looks cheap as shit. But it's like,
this is garbage.
But,
yeah.
He's just like, that's why I make a new one every year. It goes on once, it comes off once,
right?
You know,
one time. Yeah. Awesome.
But with the horror film, you know, we were talking about a couple different, you know, creators there. Wes Craven,
David Cronenberg. Actually, one of my favorite. I was going to bring up Cronenberg again. One of my favorite movies from him, Scanners. So what I've been doing, funny enough, just to make my girlfriend laugh. She gets home late at night. I put on like horror movies or older movies that I want her to watch right before I fall asleep. Like the minute I know she's going to come home. So that way it's like the beginning of them. And she's like, I can't go to sleep because I'm watching this stupid movie you have on.
That's
so
hilarious.
the other night, so last night, literally I had it on Scanners. And she's like, what is this? And I'm like, if you watch it, you'll actually enjoy it. It's very funny.
Cameron?
Not funny, but it's very interesting.
Cameron, is that you?
Yeah. And then
I love that movie.
Blowing up people's heads. I love it.
It's so great. It's one of the best.
Crazy special effect.
I love David Cronenberg. You know, I actually really want to see the new Cronenberg movie, The Futurist or whatever it's called or something. Or
he works on Discovery, by the way, too. Star Trek.
He works on Star Trek Discovery?
Yeah, he's working on it.
Really? The TV show?
The TV show. Yeah, he works on it.
Interesting. Doing what? I'm actually curious.
He does some like character design and stuff like that.
Wow. I mean, he's beyond talented. You know, he's in a
lot of movies actually, funny enough.
Yeah, all right, so you know, again, I love Clive Barker. He was in Clive Barker's Nightbreed. Nightbreed is
no way, really?
He's the psychologist who's actually
sure enough,
the killer. It's crazy. David Cronenberg. Yeah. And so I mean that one, I love that movie. I love David Cronenberg, you know? I mean, I love Clive Barker. It's a win-win-win-win-win, you know? He's
in The Fly, too. He's the gynecologist.
He's the gynecologist, but he also made that one. So he put himself in it.
Yeah, of course,
That's a great one. Again, Jeff Goldblum doing, I mean, amazing. I can't think of too many other horror movies he was in, but no one else.
Gosh, I gotta watch Nightbreed again.
Nightbreed's great. Yeah, Nightbreed is great. I love that
movie. That was such a good movie.
Dude, Nightbreed. The guy when he's just like, oh, you're like us. Ah! He rips like his skull off.
Peels his skin
off. And then it's like, it looks like he's bleeding, but then he goes to like Monsterland and he's just one of them now. I'm this guy with face ripped off.
Yeah.
I'm Monster 2. Oh, I love that. It was so...
He was in Jason X, too. I haven't seen that movie, but...
The one in space?
Jason X?
Jason X? No. Jason X,
2001?
Yeah, I think... Right, we watched it over at Mark and Steve's on Wagon Wheel. Anyway.
Did we really?
We did, absolutely, hands down. Yep, that happened, for sure. That was like Jason X and Jason vs. Freddy days, man. You know, Wes Craven, his whole body of work, again, he did thing, right? No. That was John Carpenter, my other all-time favorite. It's so hard.
John Carpenter, yeah.
Horror movies are phenomenal. I mean, you know, and it's just there's so many. You know, when it comes to fear, though, it's like horror movies almost are an inoculation in a way. You know, it's like in some ways they've tried to escalate. Now we see the monster. Now we're used to these monsters, and it's not scary. I like to play that character in a video game now, right? You know, it's almost an inoculation. You know, but you know, every once in a while something. You know, we were talking about jump scares. You know. I remember like one of the first jump scares was like that what was it? It was like a Brazilian or Australian commercial. It was just like a vehicle commercial.
It was a commercial. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
one of the biggest jump scares.
Yeah, and it went all over viral on the internet
with the zombie.
Yeah, and it's like, look close. What's the sign on the left say? You get all close. That was it. And everyone had to send it to their friend. You know. Thank you,
E-Bombs World, for
exactly, that. Exactly, right? Thank you, you know, all of those places, man. So many places. E-Bombs World really was one place that Reddit, and then, you know, even, oh my goodness, my brain is just leaving me right now. You know,
man, I didn't know John Carpenter was... I know he had, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go on.
I didn't know he did They Live too.
Bro, that's his movie. He made They Live. All right, the other thing that's great about John Carpenter, he does the music as well. He's like usually his own composer. So he does the music. For The Thing, the one, again, we're coming back to The Snow a lot, coming back to The Thing a lot. But now that we've talked about John Carpenter, I want to just give props. He worked with Ennio Morricone from the Sergio Leone films, the spaghetti westerns, right?
I'll pass on those, but I'm a Western fan.
I like.
There are some classic ones. I love
spaghetti
some
westerns.
Of them, like, Jesus.
The music is phenomenal.
The music, the scenery is great, but the stories are stupid as hell sometimes.
1960s, 70s Italian horror, spaghetti western. And science fiction films like Trippy, right? I got a soft spot for. You know what I mean? Like 1920s, 1910s, early German films, gotcha. up to the early 30s, maybe some films, right? Again, but that's just society changing their mind about things, right?
He's got 40 composer credits. Jesus,
He knows how to make music. Yeah, he worked with Ennio Morricone. Like they put
he has more composer credits than he does director credits. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's just all around.
Ghost of Mars, another awesome one.
Ghost of Mars was an interesting one. Not my favorite.
Ooh, I like that one too.
I like The Fog. I like the remake too, actually. I
do like the remake. Yeah,
I like the remake. But the original one with Adrienne Barbeau got to be the winner. I'm sorry, Adrienne Barbeau. Again, she was in so many horror movies. She was in a lot of John Carpenter movies.
Pull it up, see who it is.
Oh, come on, Adrienne Barbeau. Come on.
I'm terrible with names. You know that.
Terrible. You're so terrible with names. Adrienne Barbeau. She was in The Thing. She was in Escape from New York. She was in I mean, what other...
All I had to do was see her face. Yes, I know you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in Sea-Lev 2021, Captain Murphy wanted to become a Barbobot. Anyway, that was a whole other... Not... scary. Right. but John Carpenter makes great scary movies. Someone who kind of reminds me of almost a John Carpenter, and I would put this person, and I don't think they're mentioned enough, but when I think of John Carpenter and David Cronenberg, when it comes to these nasty, drippy, and just icky type of stuff, you know what I mean, to be scary and just make your skin crawl type of scared, Brian Yuzna. Now, Brian Yuzna, Yuzna. Admittedly, I first found out I was a Brian Yuzna fan because I saw, I saw Reanimator, but I didn't know who made it or whatever. That came out when I was born, and so I didn't see it till later on. But first movie I saw of his was his American live-action version of The Guyver, which I've always been a big anime fan for some reason. I mean, I remember being a little kid And they also incorporate a lot of horror elements too. Their society they draw a different boundary when it comes to the elements of horror that are incorporated into just daily life. You know what I mean? Just like the way that the concept of a demon is thought of, and not this horrible fucking thing that could take possession of you, and you know what I mean, and like start, doing these things with your body and your DNA or whatever. It's like, no, it's like a spirit creature that you wouldn't want to piss off. Like, it's a different interpretation of the way just like the spirit element is, and the way they had that just completely different from the Western world. When I was a kid, I would wake up at 5 a.m. because they would sell the early morning block of Telemundo or Univision to, it was News Asia. And this is back in 1991-92. It was just News Asia in Southern California when it was like a 2-hour block of time bought off of, one of those two, other non-English speaking channels, when the English speaking channels were still only playing, infomercials, or some channels still had just the American flag and going to, back then they would do News Asia, and then 3 half-hour Japanese anime shows. It was some kind of like, I can't remember what this one, sometimes maybe it was Sailor Moon, I'm not sure, but there was Dragon Ball. And then from Dragon Ball, I started looking into these other things, and I found the Guyver, which was like hide from my parents, because this is Japanese horror almost, it's almost like The Thing, but at a high school. And the Thing kind of incorporates itself into you, and now you're a murderer sometimes when it takes over. But it also saves the day.
You're talking about
The Guyver, the TheGuyver. Now this is a Japanese anime.
91. Oh, Japanese anime.
Well, it's Japanese, but yes, 1991 is the film. Again, I'm getting off subject, but Brian Yuzna made this, and he made some of the best horror movies out there. But I was introduced because I was a big Japanese anime fan. What a long aside. Terrible. Sorry about that. got way off subject. Got way off subject.
I was trying to look it up as you were talking about it, but I was like, huh.
But if you go to Brian Yuzna, who did make that film, he made Reanimator, the whole all three of the Reanimators, right? There is a new Herbert.
That's crazy, because on IMDb, they don't really... Well, maybe it's a newer version of it, but they don't give him credit for it.
Well, what, Brian Yuzna?
Did he write it? Did he write it, or did he direct it?
I think all right. What did Brian? I don't know what he did. He produced, wrote, he adapted it or something, but he did him and he works with someone else too constantly. It's another person who works a lot. But have you ever seen Society? Society is the number one.
Society, yeah, look that one up.
Look that one up. I mean, if you haven't seen Society, that has to be on the next on your list of got to watch horror films. Also, the Reanimator series, Reanimator, Bride of Reanimator, and Beyond Reanimator.
I've seen those, the Reanimators. Yeah,
I love.
I'm on Reanimator page right now.
And then if you go to Reanimator, go to find Brian Yuzna or
it says director was Stuart Gordon. By H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft. Dennis Paoli and William Norris.
All right. If you click on who the director again? My brain.
Stuart Gordon.
Click Stuart Gordon. Click his name. He works a lot with Brian Yuzna, or you can just type in Brian Yuzna. Again, this is the thing. Like, people need to know about Brian Yuzna. He's 73 years old. Born in Manila, Philippines, and he has such an amazing body of work when it comes to horror films. The Dentist. Society, though.
Spell his last name.
Yuzna. Brian with an I.
That's probably why I couldn't find it. There you go. Problem. I got it now.
All right. So this, at least the movies he's produced, he produces a lot.
He was in Beyond Reanimator, The Dentist, Faust. Yeah, that's a good one. Faust too. Faust was a nice one. I like that one.
Faust. Oh, it's newer Faust, huh? Let's see which one.
It's kind of like a demon-y
kind of movie. I didn't see this one. Oh, I know of Faust. I know. I didn't know he made one.
Well, it's fun to watch anyway.
Yeah, he's been involved with Stuart Gordon in a lot of almost like From Beyond. All right, again with the same actor. From Beyond is another great one.
Honey, we shrunk ourselves. I'm in.
And there you go. And on the other side again. So, he's one of those guys who probably his biggest paycheck was when Disney said,
Right.
we like the idea of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We like your idea. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, honestly, but it seems like horror. I mean, honestly, you can see the idea of the horror elements of just that he adapted for this kids. It's scary. Like we were talking about that earlier. It's not even a horror film, really. It's a cool kids movie. What if you got shrunk by that thing?
What if we shrunk you down?
And a little ant is big enough to chop your head off. And
scorpions and everything.
And it'll take a week and a half to walk from one side of the backyard to the back door.
Took all the innocuous things that you would never think of. Oh, I'm going to cut the grass.
Yeah.
And made them into frightening death traps,
Never seen an aphid in my entire life. They're too small for my big ass eyes. But I'll tell you what, if I was that small, I'd be scared shitting my pants. You know what I mean? Like, what is this creature trying to suckle the dew on everything? It saw me. It's coming after me. It thinks I'm big enough to fit in its mouth. It would be terrible, to be miniature, and he sure made it fun. But there's something kind of fun about that era where Brian Yuzna reminds me of the way visually Clive Barker, John Carpenter, David Cronenberg.
On that, he's all in that same time period of movies. Yeah,
absolutely, same time period, same vibe, same energy. I don't know,
late 80s, early 90s version of horror movies. They're all right in that book, like right in that area. He's 14 credits for a writer, but like 30 credits for producer, and like they're all from the 80s up to 90s that were like huge movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did a lot of adaptations for H.P. Lovecraft. Brian Yuzna did, which again, that's something I said in an earlier episode where I love H.P. Lovecraft, but what I don't like about him is that it kind of seems like, one, I like Clive Barker, how he can complete a story. He can still make it completely scary without just saying, it was so scary I can't really describe, except for imagine how scared you'd be if the scariest, most haunting thing was stepping on you and didn't give a shit and didn't matter. And it's like, just imagine how scary it could be if you don't even understand. And Clive Barker gives you enough information to put a whole picture together and still be scared shitless. You know what I mean? And he completes the story, all the way. But I mean, I love H.P. Lovecraft
absolutely.
Too, the concepts. And H.P. Lovecraft, though, when it comes to fear, he kind of started a lot of that cosmic level fear. If there's one thing that can be said, which I don't know, I feel like because of his writing, he was extremely xenophobic. He was racist, but I mean that can't be ignored. I mean, just straight up. And he it was so casual for him. And again, just society of the day, just let him.
It was a different time.
It was a different time, but it's like,
it's the excuse.
Wow. But his xenophobia was like when he wrote about this cosmic fear of these old gods that were so much grander than even the earth as a whole. They wouldn't notice us. Like the scariest part of Cthulhu and Azathoth and all these things or whatever was that they didn't even notice us. But I mean, if they just barely turned their head, they could destroy us, right? It was this.
I guess the idea of that,
and that was kind of what he was building of like this always presence, this ever presence that it's almost like he was afraid of God in a way, and he saw it as
it sounds like this omnipotence fear, like oh no, this fear of omnipotence kind of a thing, like that never really, I guess that never really like registered in my mind, only because of just. I was brought up. I never even thought of it being as something scary. I was just kind of like, it's not, I guess, not something I worry about.
No, it wasn't scary for me either. But I liked so many of the actual horror concepts, and then he would take it somewhere where it's like, why did you have to say that word?
What? Yeah,
why do you have to refer to people
that?
like this? Why do you have to refer to this group of people with that word?
It's almost like it goes shock jockey.
Exactly. Like, bro, you were talking about.
You had us, and now you went off the deep end with it. Like, what the heck are you doing?
And because of that, like, he somehow tried to mix being xenophobic about like other races and people who probably who looked just like his brother or sister or cousin, but they come from a country called, and so they must be whatever. But he was also talking about this grand thing. It's like, when I think about like the grand cosmos and how big it is, and if there's a creature that, like, if it was scratching its head and the earth is in the way of the fingers and the scalp, and then I get what you're saying. We're in between the scratch. Yeah. Like, if that were to happen, like,
it's like minimalizing yourself and making yourself so small that now you're afraid of everything. And I'm like,
but for me, I think it made me more like, well, yeah. Then if we're all on this planet so minuscule and small, then we are all the same. There's less differences in all of us, right?
Exactly.
Like, it made me see it that way. Like it's interesting how, again, a product of the time, how he didn't find a way to see. We all need to work together and spread out to as many different planets as possible. Whether panspermia is how we got here or not, we need to start it right now if we want to, not Earth, but humanity to always be alive. Again, that's that cosmic horror. It makes me think that we need to be colonizing as many planets as far away and wide as possible, for as long as we can.
Right.
I mean,
there's gotta be a reason to it.
If Cthulhu's on one of these planets, if it's at the bottom of our ocean here, then I want to move to Mars. I'm just saying it right now. That movie, The Deep, what was it called? I think you told me to watch it. The one with Kristen Stewart.
The Deep.
The Deep?
Oh, yeah, The Deep, yeah.
Was that what it's called? The Deep?
I believe so.
It's got Kristen Stewart, and it's like, it's C-Lab 2022, and shit went wrong, all right? So they're looking, they end up cracking a hole in the Marianas Trench or something, and all of a sudden it's Cthulhu. It is a Lovecraftian, eldritch film that just is kind of played from the perspective of someone who doesn't really know what's going on, except they have to deal with it like it's just any other horror film. It's not like, Cabin in the Woods, which, again, that, while falling under horror films, it's almost exploitative of the fact that it was coming out at the peak of horror popularity. It played on every horror film trope ever that are all of our favorites. It's like in that
they're
bottom
even coming
bunker.
Out with a new one of that too.
Really? I don't know. Like, don't
I think it's called A Knock in the Cabin or something like that. A Knock at the Cabin. Something to that effect.
Funny enough, I didn't like Cabin Fever. I didn't like it.
I like. Which one was that?
That one was, oh man, and I like him as an actor, but I don't know why I don't like. He made Hostel. He made
Underwater was the movie. I'm sorry.
Underwater was the movie. No problem. I'm the one who forgot what it was called. So he played the Jew Bear in Inglourious Bastards. And he makes films too. Eli Roth. Sorry. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I hate looking it up. Honestly, I like to remember things. It's like that little dopamine release. I like to force myself to remember.
I erase those from my brain.
No.
I appreciate you, because I'm like, erase, delete.
I get scared of forgetting things.
I gotta remember to tie my shoes, man.
You know what? Talk about real fear, real quick. The idea of forgetting. All right, one real thing in real life.
It's the weirdest thing. Like my idea of forgetting is the things that I necessarily need. So like, I forget to eat. That's a problem that I have. That's a real fear where my brain's like, dude, if you don't eat every day, you could be sick and die and blah, blah, blah. There's all these things that can happen.
Yeah.
And I forget to do it all the time. The time.
I forget to do it quite often, unfortunately.
And then I'm like, man, my body's telling me something. Like, what's going on? Oh yeah, I went 2 days without eating. Idiot.
Yeah. It's like, I had a bowl and a half of cereal for 2 days. I need to make myself eggs today, like first thing in the morning.
Speaking of eating, what do you think about the movie The Stuff? Remember that one?
I mean, I love
There's
the
never
beginning.
never enough
There's
of it.
never enough of the stuff, you know? I mean, I can't get enough of the stuff myself. It's just, you know, I mean, it's more popular than ice cream. And goodness. I mean, well, that movie, it was like
those
Chud.
movies are like horror.
It was like Chud.
Yeah.
I
like
love
comedy
Chud.
horror movies.
I don't like Chud.
I appreciated those more than regular horror movies because it's like they weren't so scary, but they were scary. And they were like, okay, I know I should be enjoying myself. Those to me are the ones that like brought fear movies like to light, where it's like, hey, go out and be afraid because this is fun.
Yeah,
like it's okay, everything's fine. You can go home after that. You know what I mean?
I think Trauma films kind of did that a little bit with, like, you know, Toxic Avenger. They had a lot of horror
but they
films.
were so catchy.
They were so,
you know what I mean?
Exactly, like, you
not catchy, so like kitschy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They kind of had a little bit of that vibe, but there was something campy. You know, that there's a campiness that
absolute campy vibe to it. Yeah,
that's the term that I was having a hard time getting to. Going a little bit aside, we've been talking about a lot of, you know, American. I did mention, you know, I like some of the older stuff, but what about Japanese horror? Have you ever got into any of the Japanese horror? You know, it was kind of like a big fad with, like, The Ring.
I don't think I really did.
Remember The Ring?
Okay,
there was The Ring, The Grudge, those series. You know, Sam Raimi. Yeah.
But fun, yeah.
You know, there are other ones. You know, did I ever show you The Audition? Or Audition, I believe it's called. Now, I heard about this movie. I think it came out in 2002 or 3, maybe. Spine-chilling movie. The reason why I watched this movie is because I'm also a Rob Zombie fan, and I think that if you're going to be a Rob Zombie fan, you're probably likely to be a horror movie fan as well.
An 84, a 2019.
It's just Audition. Audition. Let me.
Just Audition.
1999, I think. Is that what it says? 99. Yep, 1999. So, 1999 Audition, hour 53 minutes. Rob Zombie in an interview, as he was showing off his extensive, massive, one of the largest horror movie collections on VHS and every format. If there's only one copy left, he'll get it. You know, like, he'll make sure he has every horror movie at one point at least. He said this movie was really fucking creepy.
I haven't seen this one.
That was it. I said, if he's a horror movie fan, and he said, but this one's really fucking creepy. I was like, I'm going to check this one out. And no doubt, it's got so much creep factor to it. First, the guy's being creepy. He's like auditioning girls, pretending it's like some acting or job gig or whatever, but it's like a casting couch, but then they don't, you know, do anything on film with anyone, you know,
standard casting couch.
Yeah, but the idea was they did lie that there's no real job. They're actually interviewing to try to find a girlfriend, kind of thing. So already, like, this is, we've mentioned a couple other things about the idea of fear and how it plays into society's concepts, and with Japanese horror, again, you know, first you got to wonder, you know, what goes on, you know, in other places, you know, like, is it normal to, like, lie so easily? Like, oh yeah, we're looking for a job. We need someone, you know, with these kind of qualifications. And you show up, you're like, So actually, I'm looking for a girlfriend. And it's like, can you imagine at all how that, man, that just sounds horrible. But then she's the actual bad guy.
And she's the evil in it, yeah.
Oh, cool. My goodness. And you know what? It teaches you not to be so bad to women, because that guy, he also kind of got what was coming to him, but also, was he hallucinating that? Was he actually that creature in the bag? Was he seeing his own future? Was he like having, it was some weird shit. But then there's older movies like The House. The House makes no sense, you know? That's one that's been repopularized lately.
That one I know you're talking about, yeah.
It is almost hilarious, you know what I mean? It starts off very much like a Japanese, and honestly, visually reminds me of a lot of the era's Italian movies, Italian horror films, and the way it's shot and everything. But then all of a sudden it takes this weird twist, gets more horrific as time goes on, and then it's like there's no happy ending, and like no one gets away at the end. It's great, It's
yeah.
Oh man, so many different. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention David Lynch. I guess I actually am a big fan of David Lynch. His horror. Someone once kind of put it to me like maybe I wouldn't get it. I wasn't sure, but I was like, not sure what you mean by that. They refer to it as artsy, and I was like, okay,
I guess, yeah.
But I like his idea that spoon feeding the audience isn't doing anyone any favors.
Yeah, I don't exactly.
His view is it's not making me a good filmmaker to spoon feed you the story. If I'm writing it, why shouldn't you have to work to understand it? Shouldn't a piece of art be appreciated by the people who can appreciate it, and maybe not by the people who can't? This is fine. That's what art is, or it's like maybe you should have to you should have to work to understand it, or if you don't, figure it out, or but
or let your imagination run free with it. Either way,
yeah, and even Twin Peaks, that
Twin Peaks is a good one. Dune, he was even part of.
What was that?
Dune. It says he was a part of.
Yeah, he did. He made Dune. He did that so that he could make Blue Velvet. They basically were like, if you make Dune, we'll let you make the movie you want to make. He's like, all right, fine. So he made Dune, which again, people want to talk shit on his movie Dune, but I still think it's phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, and it's not just me being a yay, everything's great guy. I mean, honestly, if anyone's actually read the book, we've said this a couple times. Dune is another recurring, topic. It's got a lot of horror concepts in it. Honestly, just fear of a monarchy, fear of class system. You know what I mean? Even just the idea of being any one of those loyal subjects sworn to die for House Atreides or Harkonnen. You know what I mean? Like any of them, like they were all so blindly faithful. That's scary. Right? Like to be so willing to not question anything. I don't know. Like maybe that's just, again, me being a product of society at the moment, right? But it's like they were all so happy to die for the family house. Like it's something that, it makes sense, I guess, when you're talking about even Game of Thrones in a time where people don't have technology, but there's something about like a technological
simpler
age
life back then
where it seems like it's an interesting mix of that caste system, that loyalty to a house because my father's been loyal to this house, almost like, I mean, and I don't know. It's just in the same way that like Downton Abbey,
kind of like a political party.
Well, I hate kind of like a political party, right? But and this is not horror by any means, unless you were one of the families affected by Lord and Ladyship and dukes and duchesses not really being needed in England anymore. That could be like the biggest horror your family experienced. Sounds pretty horrible to me. I understand. Like honestly, if my family should still be ruling a part of a country, I'd be pretty mad, honestly. But like Downton Abbey is the story really of like a family who's they're going through like it's like the times are changing. We're not making money just by being rich. We have to get jobs ourselves and probably sell the mansion and figure it out. And but what was I talking about? Like in that world, that kind of explains like as society shifts, there's a difference. That was kind of the last era. Like the people who were the butlers and everything, they were the last like the younger ones were questioning why should we be following lords and ladies anyway, and the older ones were just like. What? How do you think that any of your fathers survived? Like if there wasn't a lord or lady to protect over a region a while ago, then raiders and and burglars come and they kill everyone, and marauders come. It's like we needed this before, and it's like it had to be scary for people, again, exploring fear. The idea of people during the lives of Downton Abbey who could have been afraid of just society changing, and again, Brian Usna made that film Society, and the concept of society comes up with fear. What from where you are. Not that movie, but he really nailed it. He really did nail it. You've got to watch that movie. Honestly, he nails.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that one. Did you ever see the one? It's The Midnight After.
The Midnight After. Hold on, let me look it up. That does not sound familiar to me.
I believe it was in Hong Kong. Hang on one second. Let me look it up real quick.
Some Chinese films I've not seen. There was one where they were moving the moon or moving the Earth. I didn't see that one either.
Oh, that one was good too, actually.
I heard that was great.
That was good, man. Really good, actually. Yeah, The Midnight After. Look that one up. It's like a comedy, sci-fi, mystery, kind of, scary one. It's kind of like, it reminds me of like Train to Busan, that kind of a feel. But very, very interesting, funny, like what would you do kind of a thing. But there is a couple like scary moments in it that I really enjoyed. It was an interesting movie. Just the way that it was written, like you wouldn't expect the characters to react the way that they did. And that's what I enjoyed about it. It was kind of like, again, like I said, the movie Train to Busan, like that movie was good too, where I was like, man, they do zombies a lot better than how normal zombies are in my mind. I'm like, that was actually way more frightening than a standard zombie movie. You know what I mean?
Watch Train to Busan.
Oh my gosh, look that one up. Actually, watch that one as soon as you can.
Train to Busan.
That one is really good.
Train to Busan too, huh?
Yeah, 2 I haven't seen all the way through. I keep falling asleep, but the first one was really good. It was fun to watch.
It's hilarious. Apparently, I'm behind on Chinese and South Korean films. I mean, Japanese films I could talk about. Italian it depends on the era. Depends on like the like, are we talking like 60s, 70s? I'll talk about Dario Argento. Oh man, Lucio.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm more in like
tip my tongue. Sorry.
You'll think of it. You'll come back to it. I like those movies that are like, in the end, some of them are suspenseful and like cliffhangery, where it's like, okay, what happened in the end? Did they all die? Did it get cured? They never really like spoon fed, like we were talking about. They don't just like, oh, that's it. Also, they're the kind of movies that are kind of like Star Warsy. I think you'll appreciate this, where they just drop you and it's like, yeah, this is a thing now. So think about this. Like, here we go. And it's that kind of a thing where where in Train to Busan, to be exact, like they start this one like basically like dude's just going to work, you know what I mean, like doing his normal thing, and then it's like, oh, he gets on this train, blah blah blah. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but like it just takes a complete turn where you're like, what? Like that's not even how I thought this movie was gonna like start off, and then it gets just compoundingly crazy. It's fun to watch.
Now I'm reminded of the House, or just House, because that takes place on a train, and then it goes off the rails.
Completely off the rails. I'm
going to check that one out as well. I'm saving that, and The Midnight After. So that's going.
There was one that was another. I think it was a Japanese one too, and no offense to anybody if it wasn't. It was on Netflix. I think it was called like Monster House or Monster Apartment. It basically was like these people. You know what I'm talking about? It was on Netflix for a while, and then it got canceled, and I cannot find it for the life of me. I was searching for it too right now, but
it was called something. Monster Apartment. I think it was a Monster Apartment. Netflix. What was it called? Sweet Home.
Sweet Home. Sweet Home.
Sweet
Home.
Oh
my gosh, that was a good one too.
So that one
was
I
like
did
one of those ones,
check
like,
out some, and somehow it
like,
fell off my watch list,
kind
and
of
I think
thing.
I only got like 2 episodes in, and then forgot about it because there's just too much good TV. Honestly, there's too much good stuff out there, and I also appreciate some bad stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, I really do. I don't know why.
Supposed to watch the bad, so you know that you're watching good.
but I have such a it's like a morbid fascination too. Like and I don't want to call any of their work bad by any means, but there's an interesting quality to some work that again I'm not going to call I wouldn't call Troma's work bad. I would call it It's their style to be avant-garde in that way. It's almost like a modern Dada. Like, honestly, you know what I mean? So if anything, they're almost like dotting the whole world, with their version of it, and everyone loving it and just they love it. It's totally Dada is what it is. Anyway, what was I saying? But Jeffrey Combs, he was in a lot of Brian Usna films. He played Herbert West in the Reanimator. He played what's his name? I can't remember his name. Cottington's Worth, majestic name, the third, whatever kind of name that H.P. Lovecraft would write when he did. It's called. Oh, it's right here. From Beyond, right? But Jeffrey Combs also did, as far as bad movies, one I think maybe Troma might have been involved in, actually. It was going to be the Doctor Strange movie, the one I told you about, Dr. Mordred. Remember that? So that one has these weird horror elements of, interdimensional demons and wizards and, these things that explore, like, these concepts. Cosmic horror, aliens in the snow, vampires in the snow, vampires in ancient England, I mean, what, really, if I had to think about something that would scare me, the Babadook. No, that one did get me, but I think
that
just
one got my kids. I thought that one was not that scary to me.
I don't know why that one got me.
That one and what's it called, like Stranger Man or something like that? Tall Man.
Oh no! Well, there was
that one got my kids too.
There was a movie called there's Slender Man, who is
Slender Man. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
But there's no Slender Man movie. I think there's like a Slender Man series or something, but it's about that terrible case where there was the girl who believed in creepypastas too much, right? And two girls hurt another kid.
No, there's
and that was really just like a documentary about like an incident.
No, there's the one, the movie. It was
there's a movie called Tall Man that actually has
I think it is like Watch Out or Beware the Slender Man, something like that. It was like 4 or 5 years ago.
I would need to see.
Hold on one second, I'll look it up.
Yeah, all right. Beware the Slender Man. Let me see.
Oh yeah, actually it is Beware the Slender Man in 2016.
Beware because
it's about two girls.
Yeah, that's the one. That's just a documentary.
That's the one.
That's just a documentary about the case. Okay, so it's a movie. It's a movie that explores this real life event,
like the murder of it. Yeah.
It's a true crime, right? But it revolves around the idea of Slender Man, which was internet horror, creepypastas, right? And these young girls believed it so much that they tried to sacrifice a school friend so that they could become the servants of the Slender Man. Or maybe one believed it, or maybe both believed it, or maybe neither believed it, or maybe they were both pushing each other, or maybe one was sick. And there's a lot of who knows, and but here's a fear for society: teaching your kids what's real and not. I mean, I don't have the knowledge. I'm not a parent, but I mean, a movie like that comes out and makes me like, do you mean the internet can poison people into not understanding what's real?
Well, I mean, I think of it like this: like enough of media, even movies included in the media. Like you show enough of something and it becomes real when enough people believe in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I believe that.
Whether it's real or not, like if you show enough of it and you make it more interesting and more interesting and more fun to watch or whatever, or controversial, however, people start believing it. I mean, look at how many people were taking like horse hormones and all kinds of crazy stuff just in case. Like some people that didn't even believe it, even doctors were like, oh, just in case, like, holy crap, just crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's how that works. But I think like that goes into what we're talking about, like fear and stuff like that. Like for me, jump scares never really got me and never scared me. I wasn't that kind of person. I was all about imagination. I was all about like, hey, like, let me think about it. Let me make this real into my mind. Mm-hmm. And then I will be afraid of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, I think of stupid stuff. Like I was afraid of like the Jabberwocky from like
the Alice in
80s
Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland
Oh,
one.
not that one. Oh man,
Insane! Like
and I can't find that one. I've looked for that one.
You can watch it on YouTube. Me and my kids watched it. I made them watch it because I was like,
send me the link. Send me the link.
You have to be afraid of this. Yeah, and it was made for TV.
Yeah,
which was
I know.
Dumb. Like they made this.
It's a two-part.
Yeah, it was a two-part thing. Yeah, it was like 2 Sundays that you got to watch it.
Now there are more Alice in Wonderland adaptations than.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch, and
have ever taken.
Most of them include that.
Yeah,
most of them include it, but they take it out, except for like the new one with Tim Burton. He left it in, which was kind of cool.
He left it in for the second one.
Not exactly.
Right?
It was more,
or was it the first one?
Yeah, it was more. I think it's in both. It's in the end of the first and mostly in the second. But
okay, I don't remember.
It was great to watch. It was cool to watch now that I'm adult because I'm like, man, I'm not so afraid of it. First of all, secondly, it's like my brother would just say the name and it would scare the living crap out of me because. Again, back then they had a giant, animatronic monster that freaked me out. The sounds and sights, it just worked me up. It let my imagination make it real.
What do you think about the difference in computer generated effects versus practical effects?
I'm a practical effects kid. I mean, that's how I grew up.
Here.
The CG stuff does not freak me out. It makes me think, if you're gonna go that far to put that much detail. Make it really real. You know what I mean?
Really, really real, right?
Yeah, make it super ultra real where you're like, wow, that's a thing. That's real.
It's really fascinating that even though it was, 20 frames a second, which, by the way, I mean, it is months and years of work to animate skeletons battling. And Ray Harryhausen was a pro, and it just takes forever to do it by hand and, make a little movement, click, click, and it takes forever to make these things, but it doesn't come across half as real looking, but there's more of an element of fear. That's what I was trying to say. For me,
absolutely. More of an element.
And it's not like I'm not afraid of claymation, I mean, I was
just going to bring up claymation. There's a movie that was, I think it's called Angry God or something like that. It's a movie that's pretty good. There's very little words in it, but it was like from this super, super well-known stop animation guy, and he killed it. The movie is so interesting to watch. It feels like there's like 5 movies in it, and you're like, man, I don't know what storyline I'm on because it's that good of a movie. It's interesting to watch just because there's very little talking in it, very, very little, because stop animation obviously take you forever to do that, but it's a great movie to watch.
I'm very interested. I'm going to look at that one too. Let me see here. I'm trying to think along that line. There have been so many new ones. There've been a lot of interest in, and I've watched them all with my wife. She likes them. I like them too, but I don't believe them. I don't get like scared of them. But everything that has to do with like Ed and Lorraine Warren, the movies with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, right? Like the Conjuring movies, the Annabelle movies. I think even The Nun was in that series, but I'm not sure. All of these movies are, about almost like retellings or like, based on real events type things, and scary, Annabelle, the possessed doll,
whenever it's like whenever it's more of a like, hey, this really happened, we're just recounting it kind of a thing, that always gets me. Like we talked about, the Close Encounter movies,
exactly,
and all that. Like those gets me when it's like we're just telling you what happened, and we kind of did a little artistic licensing. I'm like, holy crap, that was real.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was exactly where I was going to go too. I'm glad that you brought that up, because the Travis Walton story, it really. Don't get me wrong. His story is not all really, not at all. Up to a point, what happened away from his friends when it was just him somewhere else. He does have a slightly different story of the encounter, right? Where it almost seems like they were trying to help him, but they were obviously not like him, and it was scary. And he, his story sounds fearful as hell, but Hollywood says we're gonna make it seem scarier, you know, and then they updated his true story.
They
zhuzhed it up, right? You know what I mean? They gave it that little Salt Bay, you know what I mean? They seasoned it proper, right? So they wanted to do it that way, but his story is scary enough as it is, you know. But no one's ever going to tell your story 100%. You know, it's kind of
nobody can live the same story that you live. So no matter how many times you try to recount it, it's never going to be the same. I think of it like, have you ever tried to tell your wife like the dream you just had? And I have completely lucid dreams.
Oh,
and sometimes I'm like, I don't remember exactly some parts, and I'm the one who made the dream happen the way it happened. You know,
I'll have like a Swiss cheese memory when it's a lucid dream. It'll be like I'm Sam from Quantum Leap, which, by the way, I'm going to check out the new show. I'm going to check it out.
I was going to say, I haven't tried it yet, but I heard it's pretty good, actually.
I'm going to check it out. I got to see it. But, you know, it's like I'm living my life, but then I'll forget. There'll be like something missing from my life, and I don't remember what it is. There'll be something, and I'll be like searching for it, and all the other things like, no, wait, just wait a second, guys. Hang on. I'm trying to figure out what's missing. Then I wake up, and I go, oh, yeah. It's because I was asleep. That was really close to real.
Dreaming, yeah.
Because I was dreaming.
Exactly.
It's like all those people are in dreamland, just like, he said, hang on. When's he coming back? Never.
Wait a minute,
don't ever have the same dream twice.
Exactly.
See you never.
That's something weird too. Like, I do have the same dream, but I changed the parts in the dream. So it's like I relive like a couple dreams that like are fearful, but like I'll change little parts in them, so it's either less fearful or 10 times worse. And I don't know why my brain does that.
There have only been a handful of times I've actually had, pardon me, some sort of like a recurring dream, or I don't know if I'd call it nightmare, but something so real, so in depth, felt like months and years, and when I opened my eyes the next morning, it was not real. You know, it was like one of the. It's funny that, you know, they explore that in that new Doctor Strange movie. You know, like dreams are just seeing things from other dimensions,
right? Just other dimensions.
Sometimes, you know, when things are
makes you wonder,
makes
right?
you wonder when things are just like, so
they're onto something.
You know, it's like, that is my reflection. These aren't exactly my clothes. I know one of you.
Yeah, right.
That could be scary. Imagine if that was your life, you know? I mean, people talk about just like, you know, a hit on the head and you forget the last 2, 3, or 10 years. That would be scary. You know, again, that's me projecting fear of forgetting. That's like,
are there any movies that were like non-horror movies that had like something in it that just made you afraid that you can think of? Even like fantasy or just like
I guess E.T. was the one I mentioned earlier. E.T. was not intended, but that first jump scare got me. The jump scare got me as a kid.
Return to Oz?
Oh, Return to Oz was creepy, but it was something that sparked my interest in creep.
I love that movie, but it was like, man, there was a lot of parts in that where I was like,
this is not a kids movie?
No. Yeah, this is a kids movie? I'm not so sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was something wild.
Even when I was like, oh man, I was telling my kids, like, you guys got to watch this. You guys got to watch this. And then I started watching. I'm like, you might be a little too young for this.
Yeah.
Like, why did I watch this? Oh, I'm scared. And I'm way older. Like, what the hell?
Now.
Yeah, I'm an adult. This ain't exactly. This is like some over the top. Like, I think of like Tim Burton-esque, like how he redoes stuff.
Yeah.
Like he makes them dark. But that was like, whoa, this is really like, they took Wizard of Oz and made it like, oh my God, this is kind of creepy.
I don't really get scared of like the Tim Burton-esque. His Victorian era, he always makes it too fun. Joyful, even in the dark. He kind of maybe...
Yeah, jovial. Yeah.
Jovial. No matter how dark, very jovial. So if he's being scary, he's still intentionally being scary.
He makes scary fun, you know?
Yeah,
that's how he's trying to do.
I guess that your question, I was thinking of it as, is there something that might have scared me that was in a movie that was not something that intended to scare me. Like if there was something, that's how I took your question.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like a Beetlejuice. Like, was there parts in Beetlejuice that made you jump up? Like, because that's a comedy. But there are some pretty weird, crazy parts in there. You know what I mean?
As a kid, is something that Land Before Time. There you go.
Really?
All right. I mean, the concept.
Okay, what part? Yeah.
I mean, just think about being a little kid, idea. Being lost, and all the grown-ups are literally going to eat you, and because you can't find another herbivore. Fuck. I mean, right? I saw that movie when I was like 4 or 5 or something. You know, like the concept of losing like the people who take care of you. Kind of thing, you know, but then, like, as you grow up, you know, if that's like a fear, you start to teach yourself some self-reliance, hopefully, or you turn into
exactly.
something or other.
Curl up into a ball.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes I still think maybe that's what I became instead. But, you know, I like to lie to myself, and maybe lying to myself is part of toughening myself up. But it's like, you know, that was scary, probably not intentionally. And then, you know what? The Great Owl and Secret of Nim, Don Bluth did a great job.
Too? Wow.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That. I loved it though, but there was like I'm trying to think, something that was scary, not intentionally. Off the top of my head, nothing is popping up. Nothing like really particular.
Those are the first ones that's one of the only ones I can think of right offhand. I was like, man, this is supposed to be like a kid's fun, you know, adventure movie. I assumed, you know, it's Oz and the Return to Oz, so it's adventure. She's gonna go back and meet all her friends, and then it's like, let's turn into a little dark. You know what I mean? Like dark whole session, like is creepy.
And in a way, that kind of plays on the same emotion as Land Before Time, because she shows up in Oz, a place supposedly familiar only to her, right?
Yeah, like she remembers it.
It begins off everyone telling her she's crazy. You go to the mental institution. You're getting electroshock therapy while in an ice bucket. I'm pretty sure that's the way to kill somebody. Anyway,
you're not grounding somewhere. What's happening here?
You put him in a bucket of water to shock him? Anyway, I might just be remembering it all at one time. Maybe those were separate therapies, but those were, you know what? That explored another fear, the fear of medicine, you know, the fear of going to the doctor, you know, to talk about what's going on in your head. You know what I mean? Like that was that's subtly in there.
There's that movie too about that like boy who was, or it might be a boy or a girl, I can't remember, who was like electroshocked to the point where like started having like telekinetic powers and like reaching out to spirits because she was being shocked so much. They're trying to get her. Yeah, it was a good movie actually. And then like they surrounded her in mirrors, and like the mirrors were like her fear because they could reach out to her and touch her through the mirror. It was, I forget what that movie was. I'll have to look that one up, but completely crazy movie.
Oh, I think.
Remember, there's like she's sitting in a chair and she's like staring up at mirrors and like she's getting shocked and she's like, stop shocking me, like freaking out because she couldn't control them like coming in and out. It wasn't mirror.
All right. Well, I remember they used a mirror in Constantine, and that movie wasn't scary.
I still haven't seen that movie all the way through, by the way. Really? And they're coming out with the second one, by the way.
Is Keanu going to come back?
Yep, Keanu's back and he signed on for it. So
I don't care what anyone wants to. If anyone makes fun of me or if it's not cool, I'm a Keanu fan ever since I was a little kid. I mean, you know, he was in a movie called River's Edge. Have you seen that movie? That movie kind of explores fear. You know, the fear, again, within their small society, their small clique. You know, one of their friends gets drunk and kills his girlfriend, and they're all trying to figure out the next day what's going on, and the cops know, do they not know, and they're all a bunch of degenerates anyway, so shouldn't someone go to the cops? Cops don't believe us, blah blah blah.
Right, cops yeah, exactly. They're not help.
You know, it's more of a drama, but the fear of those teenagers, this is like their first real life situation. They thought it was cool to spike their hair and call themselves a punk. Well, one of their friends is a murderer, and the person that they took is actually someone else from your friend group.
Right, and don't even know it.
Good morning. That just happens. So, it's like the concept of fear, I've been fascinated with movies and film and reading and entertainment and true crime. All of these things kind of get you thinking about the concept of fear, and horror movies are one way that we explore it. And I think fear rules a lot of people's lives, probably mine too, and I just don't know it yet. You know what I mean? I mean, my afraidness of forgetting. I know where it comes from and everything. But it's still like, is it more? Is it deeper? Is it
Right.
bad? Like,
Is
what
it
is
more
it?
deeper? Yeah, well, exactly.
Is it like affecting me horribly? Fear of the unknown. Again, that goes back to Lovecraft, except,
I think the whole idea of fear for me, like fear has always been like a thing that I'm conquering. You know what I mean? Like I don't look at it as something that like fear is like, oh no, this is something I avoid and I never want to be around. It's like, okay, I'm afraid of this. Let me do a lot of this so I'm never afraid of it again.
Yeah.
That's how like I use my fears like in everything. Like I don't know if I can do this job or I don't know if I can do this thing. I'm gonna do only that and see how far I can progress in it.
Yeah.
And then once I progress, I'm like, oh, I don't know why I was afraid of it,
Yeah. Going back to the lucid dreaming, I do remember one dream I had when I was a kid. I remember I was afraid of Chucky, the doll, right? So as I grew up,
That's funny.
As a little kid, man, when Child's Play first came out, Child's Play 1,
course,
that commercial, I was not old enough to see the movie. The commercial was enough. And there was not going to be a fucking Cabbage Patch in my fucking house. I was like,
My Buddy ruined that for me.
I
was like, I'm not afraid of none of that stuff.
Bro, I just didn't want one. I also, I grew up, I had like a porcelain doll that I was like, I swear would move when no one else was looking. You know what I mean? And like all this stuff. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't,
crazy
like, like I'm either like half insane or I don't know. I'm just not a fan. Not a big fan. So
yeah, I get that. I think like a lot of that too, like for me, like I didn't have any of that stuff in my house because my parents were so religiously strict that like anything was remotely like I said, My Buddy's Cabbage Patch, we didn't have him in my house just in case.
Yeah,
it wasn't even a thing of
case.
Like,
but
as in case it's real, like don't bring him in the house. As I grew up,
I started like actively like watching as much Child's Play. Like I'm actually a big.
To try to make yourself,
and
make it fearful or not,
and it was something that like even Freddy Krueger never got me, but I watched all the Friday the 13th,
all stupid,
Nightmare on Elm Streets. I mean, Jason never scared me again.
Jason,
people would always make fun of me, like, oh, you're the killer from Crystal Lake, and I was just like, well, I gotta watch the movie now, and then I was just like, and
well, you're leading. I think part of that too is because it was a spoon-fed concept.
That one is a spoon-fed, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, here's a sound. Here he comes. I'm like, well, I'm not afraid now. You warned me that he was coming. Get the hell out of there. Like, why would you sit there and wait? That kind of a thing.
Yeah, the lucid dream. The first time I had a dream, and it was this random moment. And it was like I was walking around this big house. It might have been my house. I don't know. But, I was walking around and I had a friend with me. It was the nameless friend. It's like every time you turn around, it's the different face of an actual friend from the real world. It's like the amalgam friend. It's all my friends as one friend, right? And as we were walking, through the backyard and checking out the place or whatever, then, I see, the kitchen window and I see Chucky's in the window and he's got a knife and Chucky's looking at me and I'm like 10 feet away from the window. And like Chucky like jumps in, he turns the light on, he shows me he's there. And I just like looked to my friend and I said, look, it's Chucky. I tapped on the chest and I said, let's get him. Chucky's face changed. He started running. And
wait a minute.
We chased him. Now I'm not gonna lie. Chucky was faster than I was. And me and the amalgam friend of the dream friend, right? Chucky's faster in dreams, right? I chased him out of my dreams that night. And I don't know if he was ever there. You don't usually remember dreams, but I remember this dream. I saw Chucky, and my first instinct was, get him! And I never had a scary. I woke up feeling like a champ. I said, I literally chased Chucky out of my dreams. Come at me, motherfuckers. I felt invincible. That was like a Thursday. It was like the greatest Thursday ever.
Right.
Just waking up.
Thursdays.
Like I felt like I must have conquered a fear or something to dream of chasing Chucky away and then like walk the perimeter of the house and like he doesn't show his face again. I don't hear a bush rustle anywhere. He's not around. So, like as far as like dreams can be scary, Chucky can be scary, movies can be scary, Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, I was saying before, horror movies, reading horror stories, even, no one did more to perpetuate the idea of Satan as a concept in the Catholic Church, right? I mean, throughout time, really. Where does most of the iconography come from, right? The co-opting from other, things and demonizing it, right? All these things and telling these horrible stories of fiery damnation, blah, 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 and then, of course, the Latin language. It's just it adds the icing on the cake. It makes everything sound like a fucking
scary
spell. Yeah. It makes everything sound like an incantation. Yeah, so it's like no matter what, it's just there you go, fear of religion.
Right. That's funny.
They don't pay taxes. I was thinking too, like no borders.
Right when I brought that up, like there's that movie Attack of the Killer Clowns, like supposed to be fearful but completely comedy.
Killer clowns from outer space.
Unless you're afraid of clowns, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember I had a moment where I was fearful of clowns, and I walked in. You guys were watching that, and I just said, "Nope, later." And I just turned around, and I was like, "Nope, not tonight, not tonight. Later, guys. Killer clowns? Not tonight." Like I think I was like 17 years old or something, and still watching Stephen King's It on repeat to get over it already. You know what I mean? But Pennywise is my first favorite clown. But not all clowns. I grew up also liking Bozo the Clown. When I would wake up early in the morning, again, I'm a West Coast kid, but I would sometimes tune into WGN, which was a Chicago-based network, and watch Bozo the Clown early in the morning, right? Because it was a kid's morning show. It was like Krusty the Clown. It was Bozo the Clown. Like, I would actually wake up and watch Bozo the Clown. I remember like Cookie and Happy the Clown and all these other clowns that didn't scare me. But then, like,
really? That's crazy.
But then later on, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, that movie, like that gave me the creeps, and I was like 17. Right now that movie cracks me the hell up. Now it's like
completely ridiculous.
Yeah, now it's completely ridiculous. It's like it's just like, remember Spaced Invaders? It's basically
I love that movie.
It's basically just Spaced Invaders, but less wacky. And not by much.
Yeah, that movie was completely kooky.
Yeah. And
I actually really like that movie. I me and my kids just watched that recently.
That's funny.
It's a good one.
Funny. Was that made by the same people who made the movie with the TV show Dinosaurs? I really feel like there's an overlap.
I wonder.
At least cool. Production house or something. There's an overlap there. My brain is like firing that out at me. I like that show too.
Yeah, Dinosaurs. We Say So Corporation.
That's right.
You do it because we say so.
Gosh, it's so good. That was such a great show. That really was.
Okay, that's another question for you. Were you afraid of Jurassic Park when it first came out?
No. Not even slightly. I mean,
completely terrified of raptors for.
Okay, there was a jump scare. Year. There was a jump scare when the Velociraptor, when Lex is trying to jump up into the vent, and he jumps up. I remember my legs shot up, like he was after my legs. And I was in the theater. My dad took me to see like movies, like when the day they came out, kind of thing. Sometimes as a kid, like we saw like Jurassic Park, Addams Family. My dad went and took me to see like The Island of Dr. Moreau, right? Me and
my gosh,
I know the remake.
I don't know if I'd take my kids to see that one now.
I was so young.
Kids are older.
My dad was like leaning over, just like, I didn't know. Don't tell your mother. Don't tell her we
Right?
saw
I'm gonna
this
get you guys
one.
some ice cream. Shut up.
Tell her we saw a cartoon. I didn't think it was gonna be
We saw
like
Emperor's New
this.
Groove, and that's what it is. Okay,
Yeah,
Deal with
dude,
it.
this was earlier. Like, when was this? Island
I
of
know,
Dr.
I'm just
Moreau.
joking.
It was, what was it? It was actually, you know what? Here's the other thing, too. Little things
Was it
like
the Val
this.
Kilmer one or
Yeah,
the
the
earlier
Val
one?
Kilmer, Marlon Brando
Okay.
one. I'm not that old to have watched the one with Michael York and everything.
Yeah, the one
Oh,
Michael
man.
York was pretty crazy too.
Ladies and gentlemen,
holy
I was-
criminy.
I was a child of the 90s, not
Still, I
the
mean,
70s.
they got the Dollar Cinema. They showed that.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Ball and Brookhurst. That's where I saw it. Or yeah,
Oh,
Ball
wow.
and Brookhurst. The Brookhurst Theater that is not there anymore.
Burned
Yeah.
down.
It is California, unfortunately.
Had to.
I know, right? California jokes. Ooh.
Right,
Deep
exactly.
tracks. Not
Deep
so deep tracks.
Exactly.
Oh man. But
Yeah, Jurassic Park got me only because, again, like animals,
okay.
that idea, like that got me. Croc. There was another one. I don't think it was called Croc. It was
Lake
called
Placid.
something else.
Lake Placid?
Yeah, Lake Placid. That one kind of got me. There was a couple jump scares where I was like, "Whoa, this is a real creature that could really do some of these things."
Animals never scared me.
Jaws didn't get
All right,
me though.
Jaws
Didn't get
Jaws
me.
has a
I was-
great sense of fear. Now that we're thinking about Jaws, I'm actually okay. Now I'm glad this is actually it's going to take us back a little bit into like the guys who made it, but you know Phantasm, right? Phantasm.
Yeah.
Phantasm. And my brain is not remembering the person who fucking made it. Don Coscarelli. Oh, I love these movies. I'm glad that I'm not forgetting to bring these up. You know, Angus Scrimm as the Tall Man. Now, he played the Tall Man, which was a pre-Slender Man. But again, Slender Man is almost very much from
Right.
this in a way.
You're talking about Jaws, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but Jaws for some reason sparked my mind on Phantasm. I don't know what it was. It must be the era. But Jaws, actually, you know, a really scary thing. There's a woman who shows up in the movie Jaws who apparently was never seen or heard from again off that set, and supposedly there is a serial killer who is not well in the head, but he claims to have been the perpetrator as a young child, and his father helped him cover it up or something.
Really?
Insane.
Pretty interesting
stuff,
documentary.
right? It's been done.
Was a Jaws killer?
I can't remember.
Shark out of water.
Oh,
Copyright that.
Boom.
Copyright that.
Hang
Shark
on.
out of water. That's a documentary date.
Typing it right now. Terrible. But
Great
Jaws?
whites among us. No, that's too on the nose.
it's, you know, it does make me wary of the ocean. Again, we mentioned before, I
I'm a
lived in
desert rat, so it never made me afraid because I'm like, I've never swam
just
in the
not
ocean.
your
I don't
problem.
know. I don't think I have to worry about this. The ocean doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Until the first time I go in the ocean, I'm like, it's a big ass swimming pool. What are you guys worried about?
I love the
Complete naive.
until you see a shark, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
completely
again,
naive until it's like, oh, when I'm 22,
it's funny
20,
how
24,
Yeah.
until I see actual big animal in the ocean, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I could see how this would be frightening if I wasn't on a giant boat. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what scares me more than an animal big enough to eat me in one bite. It's an animal big enough to eat me in 2 or 3 bites only.
I'm the same way, and
I think that's scarier.
That's
It's-
scarier.
and that's the
I'm-
thing from Jaws that got me. You know, Great
Gotcha.
White was big, but he
to
still
swallow as
he
opposed to
still
a crunchy
had
up.
to chew the motherfucker up first, and oh man,
I think
he
of it like
was
this too. Like I'm not afraid.
screaming.
I'm not afraid
Steven
of
Spielberg
heights
is
at all. Right?
Great. Steven Spielberg is great in everything he's done, even his horror movies. Yeah, you know what? It didn't make me afraid of sharks. Like that's obvious to me. You
The thing I was
mean,
thinking,
like,
I
duh.
was talking
Look at
about,
it.
like
Afraid of sharks.
so like I'm not afraid of heights in the aspect of like
Okay.
straight down fall. Right? Doesn't bother me at all. Could care less. Off of a ladder doesn't bother me. Not that scary. I'm absolutely petrified of rolling down a concrete hill. Like so, for example, like Hoover Dam.
Rollerblades? Oh,
No, like Hoover Dam. One
The-
side straight down into the
yeah.
water, 200 feet. You smack the water, you're dead. The other side, a 45, whatever, 30-degree
Whoa.
angle, rolling, painful death of alive for
It's the crunch.
That 3 minutes of just pain, as opposed to whoa, pow, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like I've jumped out of mini airplane. I don't want to be drugged behind a car or like drop down something where I'm going to feel pain for a while before I die. Like that just seems so frightening. It's the idea too of like drowning versus being shot in the head. Like slowly watching yourself fade out. Like, oh my God, that's petrifying to me, as opposed to being like, bang, you're shot. Oh, well, I didn't even know I was dead by the time I realized I was. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? That kind of thing. Or like Punisher when he gets stabbed real slow. That kind of thing.
Man, that slow one. Yeah. He just
screaming.
He just inserted it into
he was holding his hand the whole time.
The pectoral
greatest
muscle.
Scene. Like,
great
scene. Can't even stop the guy. He just made it happen.
Man, and you know
that would have me shivering. Like, that's another fearful moment.
That
where
was
like,
a fearful moment.
Oh God, like that. If that's a real thing. If that happened to me, that would be terrible. Anytime when I can relate to it, it makes me afraid. That's what I just thought about right now.
And
if I can't relate, I'm not afraid. I could care less.
I don't know what it is about, and I am going back to Phantasm, Don Coscarelli's Phantasm a little bit, because there was something that as out of this world about it as it was, there was something that really almost felt relatable in a way. I don't know what it is. There's something really weird about the first one especially. Now, the second one, unfortunately, starts to lose it. The third one, right back in there with the original cast. But then the second one is still really good, but the first one stuck with me in a scary way. You know, there were certain things about that
really?
one. I don't know what it is. Like, it was the concept of somebody who could control or get into your head at all, or you know, like hearing people's thoughts is
completely unrelatable to me. My brain's like,
I don't know. Like,
that's
like
funny.
It's almost like he's like the personification of the unknown in a way. There was something that got me in that way.
5 of those movies. Did you know that?
I own them, of course.
You know all of them
on digital. Even though now I'm finding out that might not mean anything soon. But yeah, on digital I own them.
Are they going away too? On digital sometimes.
Who knows? Yeah, I heard that someone just got like their final space taken away from Amazon because of like some contracting thing. It's like, but he still paid money to buy a digital copy. How does he not have access to watch it anymore? So I mean, I'm not sure about all the details, but it's something that just came across my my radar. A friend showed me. Current events. We're always topical here on 9 Midnight. But
what's funny, I've seen the first 3.
Yeah,
and I don't remember. I remember.
How did you stop at just 3? Come on, you got to 3 leans right before.
It became Land Before Time for me.
Oh,
I was like,
3 was.
I'm like, they're just doing this again, that kind of a thing. The first one was great.
Yeah,
3 was good. I was like, okay, I enjoyed it too. I was like, no, this is stupid. And then it was like 3. Once I got to there, I was like, dude, I get it now. Like, it's fine. I don't need any more.
4 is more of the same. 4 is like direct, like filmed at the same time. 3 and 4 were supposed to be one movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so they're like one right after the other. So yeah, it's absolutely now 5. I feel like you got to be a fan to want to watch it. So
I'm not, so I'm out.
But
I mean, I'll watch it on a dark night, dark drunk night.
I'll give you my login. You can watch it. It's. I love them. And like 5. By the time it came out, and it had like more campiness to it, but it kind of just explored fear from the concept of a kid. It's like like lost everything. I had one dream when I was a kid. Here's a scary dream when I was a kid. I had a dream that my mom took me to a place. And my mom never let anyone watch me. Not like she just, she didn't work. She was just there. And I remember she would go to her friends, or like she'd only, if someone watched me, it was a friend of the family, like someone that they knew. I had this dream when I was a really young kid, 2 or 3, that my mom took me to like a place that watched kids, and it was run by like, I didn't have the word, but in my head, but it was like these mafioso type guys, right? And it was the weirdest dream.
Guys.
And so then anyway, my mom drops me off and they chain me under a desk. And then, you know, it was a golden handcuff too.
What? Okay.
All right. And then
I'm writing it down.
And then I had to be quiet. And then all of a sudden, my mom came in a little bit later, and I don't know why I was still being quiet. Again, it's a dream, and I was a little kid. I was like, it's like my first dream ever. It was a nightmare.
Crazy.
I'm saying it on this right now for the recording. And then my mom came in. She said, "I'm here to pick up my son." And they said, "Oh, we don't got no kids here. What do you know what you're talking about?" And then she was just like, "Oh, sorry,
spot,
must have the wrong spot," and she left.
She's dying now. Whoop, my bad.
Oh, I must be in the wrong place. And then she left, and I was just like,
Oopsie
"Mom!" And I like woke up. And yeah, I was like 3 or something. That was like my first dream. Where the hell did I get these concepts?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that one. That was a scary dream for me as a little kid. She just. Oh, well, I guess you're not the guys I left my kid with earlier.
Whoops. Never mind.
I told my
I
mom
remember
about
coming
that.
here, but I could be wrong.
I told her about that.
That's funny. What'd she say?
She flipped out, like, "Why would you ever?" And I was just like, "Of course, it's a parrot." You know what I mean? She's like, "I never left you with anybody. I never took you to a place or anything. Nothing, anything remotely. We don't know anyone." Golden handcuff. I was just like, "I'm just telling you what it was."
Right. I'm not sure how much of a thing, but it is a thing, isn't it?
It's a thing. It's a weird thing. You know, it's like, I don't know what it means. What any dream means. What does it mean when I was, you know, like flying that time, you know, or what does it mean? I don't know. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It means it'd be cool to fly. It means it would suck.
I think I want to fly sometime. Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty rad sometimes, you know. Sometimes maybe that's it.
That's funny.
You know,
I can't even think of like what would be my first dream. I mean, like my dreams are always completely like.
First one I remember.
I was always lucid. I remember that even as a kid. Like,
really?
I would have a dream, wake up, and it'd be like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble at school," and then I'd be like, "Oh no, I fixed it." And then I would like go into a stupid other whole other thing where I'm just like, "Oh, I'm not afraid anymore." So I'm having fun with this dream where I'm in school and.
I never had
fly and stuff like that. Like,
never had the fear of being naked dream. Like people being like, "Oh, you show up to school and you're naked."
I've never had that fear of falling, fear of naked, none of that.
I've had
that
the dream where I fall. I've had the dream where it's like you're falling, but I don't know if like why.
I would equate like the fear of naked like to confidence, like having some sort of confidence. You kind of tend not to have that. Like confidence in yourself, not necessarily like you're cocky, but like confidence in yourself, where you're like, I know better in myself to not do something silly. So
at least confidence in my naked body. I don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm not afraid of being naked, and I wouldn't do that, so it's okay. You know what I mean? And even if I did,
least,
hey, take a look, everybody.
I'm not sure.
Get a freebie.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's a free one, you know.
You guys let me on. You guys let me on and off the bus like this. Then this is what you get.
Right? Nobody stopped me.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I guess this is cool then. Like this is what we're doing now. I
didn't. I would walk around in just my boxers with my pants thrown over my shoulder at high school. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it doesn't bother. Yeah, it was not a thing.
Just
whatever.
And I remember one person looked at me and they were like, and I just went pantsless revolution, and they just didn't. They closed their mouth.
Like, never mind this guy.
And I was like, I'm wearing them on my shoulder. We can fight, or you can let me go to the bus home.
Right? Are you gonna let me go? Or we're gonna talk about this, because either way around, you're talking to the crazy person.
Yeah,
I'm not. I'm not. It's you.
Yeah.
Again,
who's the bigger fool?
Confidence.
Who's the bigger fool? The fool or the fool who follows him?
I mean, yeah.
I had to Star Wars quote it.
Want?
It's My Midnight, episode 15. Who's the bigger fool? Right? Don't start a fight with that guy. Right?
Right, who picks a fight with the crackheads? That's stupid. Don't.
He's
do that.
Not even wearing pants.
Leave him alone.
He's fine. Alone. There's a guy who, you know, when I'm walking the dog and we go. He always my dog always barks at this guy. It's like.
Vibes, man.
Yeah, he's giving off that vibe. You know, it twitching a lot. and it irks the dog enough. You know,
somebody tied up in a dark closet somewhere.
Yeah, well,
I'm not saying that's real. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
I was joking.
Who knows?
Joking.
I'd be surprised to find out
But
this guy,
seriously.
has anything on it. I'm sad to say that he walks around a lot. You know what I mean? I don't imagine he lives around here. Imagine he lives all around here, and but I'm not sure. And he scares the pup with the way he moves, and I'm just like, let him go though, so that we don't interact with him, because then he'll stop and he'll start. Right, hey, puppy, hey. Yeah, it's like, no, leave him alone. Like,
I had a total scary moment today, and one of my customers, actually, funny enough.
Really?
Yeah, I called my girlfriend and told her about it. So I go to this guy's house. Not gonna mention whatever, but go to this guy's house, and I'm supposed to give him a quote, and I'm like talking to him, and he keeps going, "Yeah, come inside," right? And I'm like, "No. I'm okay. I'm just talking, blah blah."
The new Jeffrey Dahmer show just came out. Sorry, go on.
I haven't seen it, by the way. I'm not interested in it, but
reminds me of that.
The problem is, you know me being Mr. Observant. Like when I pull up, there's like 6 service trucks, right?
Oh yeah,
and there's like 2 of each, so it's like 2 AC trucks, 2 plumbing, 2 carpet trucks, and I'm like, that's really odd. I'm like, well, that happens in Vegas because you get a lot of competition, so I'm totally fine with it. I'm like, whatever. Maybe he just called all of us at the same time and he's just a jerk. Yeah. So that's fine. I ignore it. Then I get out and I'm like, some of these vans and cars and trucks have been sitting here for a while. So I'm like, well, that's weird because, dust, Vegas is. Yeah. You see dust and spider webs and stuff. I'm like, well, that's really weird that these vehicles are sitting here for so long. That they have cobwebs and stuff on them and there's 2 of each. Like, what are the odds that there's 2 carpet cleaners in the neighborhood, 2 AC guys, 2, you know what I mean? Like, that's really weird. So I'm like, whatever. Again, being myself, not afraid and controlling myself with what I have, go up to God, knock on the door. I'm like, yeah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, come inside, take a look. And I'm like, no, I can measure it from outside. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, do your measurements and then we'll come inside and we'll talk about it. And I'm like, oh, it's nice out, man. We'll stay out here and we'll talk about it and get this all dialed in. And he just keeps every other statement's like, yeah, okay, cool. Come inside. And I'm like, no, I'm good, man. And I eventually had to tell him like, yeah, I'm not coming inside. Like, I don't need anything inside. He's like, well, you got to go from the inside to look at everything. I'm like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm like, I'm just good. Like you gave me so much weird vibes that now I'm like, I'm good. I don't want no part of this. So
yeah.
So I literally go around the corner. I hop in my truck, drive around the corner. There's a cop sitting there and he's like doing paperwork or whatever. I go over and I'm like, hey man, like I tell him the same story. Like, this is what happened. Gave me super creepy vibes. I give him my ID and all that stuff. And I'm like, I want nothing to do with what happens. After you go talk to that guy, please don't include me in anything. But I'm just telling you how uneasy this dude made me. He literally must have mentioned come inside about 20 times.
Yikes.
Where I was like, yo, if you were anybody else, and I was like, you know what I mean? Not my stature, not my non-fear of like, I'm a gun-toting American. So I'm like, I'm not afraid of you. And I'm just in the just enough distance where I'm a really goddamn good shot.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, nah, I'm keeping you at 8 feet, 10 feet where I'm like, you keep, the first time he said it, I was just like, oh, he's just a really nice guy. Then like, the 5th time, I'm like, this is super creepy. Like have
there been any developments with that?
No, I specifically told the police officer I want nothing to do with it. And he's like, well,
have you heard about anything?
No, I haven't looked at the news or
nothing. I'm gonna look it up.
It's not gonna come out for a couple of days. It won't.
So this just recently happened.
This just happened like later or earlier this afternoon. I was like, this
happened
crazy.
Today.
Yeah, I forgot about you were talking about fear, and I was like, man, I didn't have fear, but I was like, this dude's creepy as hell. Like, what's with this dude? You know what I mean? He put me on an off feeling, like, what's gonna happen next, kind of thing.
That is a true to life horror moment.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I think of all this. Well, you know me, like I'm a scenario guy, so I think of 15 scenarios in about 20 seconds of what the problem could be. He's crazy. He's weird. He's got somebody inside the door right as I walk in. Billy clubs me over the head. He's a complete upside down pineapple guy. You know, I like there's a million different situations that ran through my head where I'm like, okay, all these things happen so fast in my brain that I'm like, none of them are any of them that I want to be involved in. So I'm backing out.
Yeah.
I'm literally like backing out of the situation. Like, I don't care what's going to happen. I'm out of here. Like, you guys, you can figure this out and screw this. You know what I mean? It was totally stupid.
Wow.
But he was also like this little guy that like made it even more creepy. Had he been like some big giant dude, maybe I would have been afraid. But I'm like, you're like 120 pounds of like of trying to convince me to come inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The most fascinating thing about it is the vehicles.
And that's what I was thinking. Like, okay,
yeah.
So is the vehicles a complete coincidence? Say there is a mechanic who works on service vehicles, and these are just sitting here, have been sitting here for a couple months.
Yeah.
That could be a thing. That could be a complete thing where I'm like, maybe, because they were all trucks. That's the other thing. So I'm like, it's kind of weird that they're all trucks.
I'm going to check the news and
right. I escaped it. I survived. That's
next week we might have
for the night.
Tonight's conspiracy is Elgin. Now this
surviving,
is before
being skinned and wore like a jacket. That would make a beautiful jacket, by the way.
You are
caramel color leather. Come on now, peanut butter leather. Everybody loves that.
Where can I get one? Anyway,
and I fit. Let's be honest. I'm a solid 4X jacket when someone skins me down.
You know, I think we're gonna have to take you in a little bit.
Once you tan my hide, you're gonna need some tailoring.
Oh man, yeah, we're gonna have to tailor it. This is morbid. This is morbid. This is Silence of the Lambs right here. You know what I mean? This is what they were doing.
Not eating anyone, just wearing me.
well, that was what Buffalo Bill.
The
Silence of the Lambs. Even though the main antagonist wasn't really. Which again, it's really weird. The protagonist is really the person who starts the whole thing, and the person who starts the whole thing was really the Buffalo Bob, the killer, right?
Right, the killer.
And the antagonist, the person trying to stop it, is the good guy, and that's really the way it's usually. In the stories, the bad guy does something, and then the good guy reacts. So it's kind of a mixed up protagonist antagonist. You know what I mean? It's like, but besides that, oh man, that just got me a little mixed up right there.
I'm telling you, I'm not coming out on the news if something happens. It's just I told him, like, leave me out of it. I don't want to be like, oh,
you
good
say
citizen, that. Nothing. I don't want any recognition for it.
And then like when the state of Nevada pulls you up because there's no choice, you are the only surviving service tech to walk away from that address in the last 3 months.
Yeah, I'm going to testify, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I want to be on television. I'm definitely going to be like, hide me in some, I'm put a cloak over my head, walk me in the back door because I want nothing to do with this.
But Nye Midnight gets the exclusive.
Oh, of course. We're going to waste it and not have content. That's ridiculous. Like, you can film me while we're on the podcast.
I love it. So good.
Here's the breakdown of what happened. I can now talk about it because the court case is over. And like, how awesome would that be?
What a crazy thing. I'm like, tune in, everyone.
Oh my gosh, I hope not. Don't even say that.
Oh man, you talk about viewers.
So scary. Ugh.
But you're here. You're smart enough made
it.
Pardon me, sir. Why don't you come in the house? I just made some nice warm Kool-Aid.
Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Right?
Ain't no pigeon. Mama didn't raise no fool. I'm out.
Right? Just remember, everyone, lime Kool-Aid is everyone's least favorite.
No one buys lime Kool-Aid. Exactly.
All right? No one buys lime Kool-Aid outside of Florida, and that's another episode entirely, everyone. I'm joking.
That's the truth, man.
We've talked about Florida Man a few times. I mean, it's the one funny thing. It's like, you the same stuff happens in every state. Only their state has the law where it's going in the news. Where you know what I mean? It's
everything happens in Florida. It's like Jesus.
Everything happens everywhere, but in most other places it doesn't. it's not allowed to be in the news.
Yeah,
Because
like,
it's allowed
put that
to be in
under
the
wraps.
news, it is big Florida news. It puts Florida on the map sometimes.
You can literally type in Florida man and Florida woman into Google.
Yeah.
And your birthday and see what craziness happened. That says something about the place.
It's amazing. It's pretty interesting.
It's like, that's frightening, man.
It's great though, exactly what you're saying.
No, it's not great. It's frightening.
Frightening is what we're
talking about. It's great for content. It's horrible for life.
It's horrible to I mean, hey, finding employment in this day and age, that's scary. For some,
it's like, okay, if you don't have to deal with natural causes, hurricanes, storms, yada yada, you have ...
Yeah,
Florida man,
yeah.
Like, Jesus,
if it's
that's the craziest part.
Yeah, you can just type that in, and it'll tell you what happened that day. Man, I mean, when it comes to horror movies, I wonder when Florida Man is coming to a theater near you.
Oh, eventually, no, it's going to be something like The Land of Florida.
Oh no,
you know what I mean? The lost environment, something silly like that.
I remember that episode of Futurama where people talked about the lost city of Atlanta.
Atlanta.
And they talked about Atlanta, Georgia, like it was a myth. The place never existed. Remember
That's funny.
And they all evolved into mermaids because of like
toxic
waste
fell
and
off.
stuff. Yeah,
toxic waste and fell off.
Great.
Yeah.
It was great. I always hoped to, I liked the body horror, like organic body horror stuff. As a youth as well. Again, we had our werewolves episode. The pain it looks like to transform into a werewolf, there was something oddly appealing to it. Like, if you're going to be cursed, it's like to get to experience true pain and then magically get turned back okay in the morning. It's like there's an odd creep fascination to it. Yeah, really? Like every bone in your body break and reform into a dog. It turns you so ravenously insane that you go and you accidentally...
I don't need it.
I've had some broken bones too. I'm not a fan of it.
Broken bones, and I'm like, I don't want no more. Even if it means I get superpower, super strength, and wake up with, wow, that was crazy. What happened? Nope. I leave me naive.
And I'm not saying it would be great. It doesn't ever seem great to be a werewolf unless,
again, not wanting, nothing there.
but all sorts of these body things, even going back to the Guyver, how I first got into Brian Yuzna, that Japanese anime explores, transforming the body, morphing into something else. There was a movie we talked about recently as well, Titan, which is more of a sci-fi movie,
Titan.
But it has a bit of a horror element. What do we have to do to survive on other planets and other places? Again, there's something else that I've mentioned earlier in this episode, along with other episodes too. The idea of colonizing the space. Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, if an asteroid takes
another
out
subject we should talk about, actually. But go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, but all of those things. It's like when the fear of it all just coming to an end, or back to the body thing. That body horror, where it's like things are really gutsy and gory and like, it's there's something very. I lost where my train of thought, but it's gripping. It's like I've always been fascinated with it. Yeah. That stuff has always got me. It's like fascinated, like interested. I don't know what it is. No, Titan. That's what I was going to say. That one is about them going on to
Mars, wasn't it?
The Titan. No.
The moon. Titan. Yeah.
I see earlier that you text me the link to that Alice in Wonderland. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's a full movie, by the way, so you can watch it.
Perfect. But Titan was about if we have to adapt our body to get onto living on another planet. And since I was a little kid, I thought, why? I wish we could make ourselves part plant so that we could survive off just the sun. How great would that be? Guess what? Food, crisis ended as long as you don't block out the sun, right?
I mean, essentially, don't we have to have the sun to survive?
But if vitamin
D and all that sort of stuff, where all the people who
of course.
You know what I mean? We
Because
are kind of plants as is.
in a way we are, and I mean, and also very much like fungi as well. I mean, honestly, just the brain and the nervous
the
system.
synapses and nervous systems.
It
Yeah,
looks like
I
a
saw a
mushroom in
documentary
mycelium.
about that, by the way.
Yeah,
That was a good documentary.
it's
Was that on
phenomenal.
Netflix? Where was that? I forget.
Probably, I think they have one. Fantastic Fungi, I think.
It was a great one.
Fungi,
Yeah, great one.
Paul Stamets is phenomenal. Mycologist. If ever you want to look him up, he has amazing information. Very, very knowledgeable man. Very, very professional. But mushrooms, fungi, that's what we look like. If you look at the human anatomy, when I was a kid, I used to love going to Barnes & Noble, and I would look through even Grey's Anatomy. I remember that one, that particular. It's not a ABC drama series, everybody. It's actually a book,
right?
That was how most people learned anatomy in school for many years, because that guy did the hard work of digging through bodies to figure out what the shapes of the insides really are. And it's really weird when you look at what the human body is and just organs. The liver, our whole body, we eat a food, but then it's like our stomach eats something from our mouth, and then something else eats it.
Spinning on that one.
You know what I mean? Like it's a bunch of other animals.
Yeah.
No, it's like a bunch of animals stuck together, and plants, right? It's a bunch of weird single cell things.
Yeah, single cell machines.
Like, even like the liver is just filters. It eats something, the kidney, and then it pumps everything, and then finally it dumps it in your bladder. It's gross. But like thinking about this, I was fascinated with anatomy, and it's like all being controlled by a plant. It looks like it's gross. It's fearful, right? Like we get affected by fungi. If you have a fungal infection, the way some fungi can affect your state of mind. You know what I mean? It can, there are plants and out there that chemically put people into a state of fear. You know what I mean? And these things get explored in a lot of these horror movies, whether it be Cabin Fever or Reanimator, and even death. Death is a concept we haven't talked about too much. We're coming to the end of this one, but the death itself.
Oh yeah, actually,
I mean, it's that's one that surprisingly I can't believe fear of death. Wow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
for a whole another episode. I have a whole list of things on why I don't fear that. But.
Yeah, but for the majority of people, surprisingly, public speaking is higher. So
yeah, of course, yeah. It's I mean, because one's more accepted, but yeah.
It's interesting, very interesting. I think that's a good spot. I don't know. What do you think? Any final thoughts going on about this?
No final ones. I mean, we'll watch the news and see what happens.
Yeah, everyone check out the Las Vegas news. If you find out about the, I'm going to call it the service tech killer, right? The service tech stalker.
Service tech massacres.
The tech stalker, the service tech stalker, right? The Vegas service tech stalker. We're trying to give him a name. The Vegas service tech killer.
If you come up with a name, Speaking of which, if you come up with a name, shoot us a text, shoot us a call.
Absolutely.
We're on all forums. Let us know, or join the conversation as always. But we forgot to mention that, and I didn't mention them. Sorry.
We have a flash. If anyone's ever with us live, we do have ways for you to click and or scan, many different ways popping up visually. Saying it out loud is just a way for letting everyone know, if you're listening later on, that during the live we are accepting, calls.
Yeah,
join the conversation. Anytime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we didn't mention
tell us we're right, tell us we're wrong. Join in. We love it.
I think at some point we're going to probably just stop mentioning it, because we do have, for everyone live, it's kind of everywhere. Honestly, there are 5 different places, whether in the chat or on the screen to call in. So, but yeah,
it's a good place to end it.
Let us know. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, now
have a good one.